Greenlees.
Okay. So I've had the pleasure, I think the first time I met Rick was probably in about 1995, and yeah, there seems to be a bit of a theme with Rick and romance. I was actually chasing a young lady who was interested in snakes at the time and who managed to get the marks to get into Sydney Uni for a start. So she was hanging around in Rick's lab at the time, ended up doing honours with Rick and Glenn. But that was about 1995. I had a little bit more misspending of my youth to do before I decided to settle down and get into academia. So it was, I think, in about 2001, 2002, I eventually got into Sydney Uni as an undergrad, mature age. I think the first week of first year, second year and third year, I was in Rick's office asking if I could do honours with him. Like Chris, and he basically also told me to calm down and wait and see how my marks were, which spurred me on to do much better in my undergraduate academic career than what I probably would otherwise. So yeah, going through and volunteering in the lab, as an undergraduate I got to work with thick-tailed geckos. When I was in first year, in second year graduated onto smaller lapids, helping John Llewellyn catch whip snakes and marsh snakes, and in third year I was able to do a project on bandy bandies with Rick and Jono Webb. So my marks managed to stay high enough so that when it came time in the end of third year to go and hit Rick up again to do honours, I went into him and said, all right, I've stuck it out, Rick. My marks are not bad. You know, I was a known quantity in the lab at that stage. Can I do honours with you? And he said, well, actually, I've got a project at Fog Dam. And it's like, Fog Dam, this was like the mecca of you know, snake research in Australia, one of Rick's main study sites, notorious for thousands and thousands of water pythons. So before he'd even finished telling me about it, I said, sure, I'll take that project. And of course I was conned. The project had nothing to do with snakes, and was in fact cane toads. Rick knew nothing about cane toads. He just, like Glenn said, he was ahead of the game. Along with Ben Phillips, been able to secure some funding and utilise the fact that he had a long-term study site in Fog Dam, but basically it was a project on toads, so a little bit ripped off there, but going to Fog Dam, of course, it is all about the snakes. So despite that, got the opportunity to go up to Fog Dam and play with plenty of cool snakes. I had a bit of a flick through Rick's book, and I noticed that in the section where he's talking about broad-headed snakes, there was an incident occurred that obviously made Rick very mindful of safety in these sites. And for any of you that know or that have been out looking for broad-headed snakes, they do tend to like the edges of very large cliffs. I'm shit scared of heights to start with, so it's not a great environment for me to be in. So one of the first field trips I ever went on, and it was probably the first trip I ever went on with Rick, was with Jono and Jai Thomas out down to Yarwell looking for broad-headed snakes as part of Jono's long-term study. First morning we got out there and Rick's given us this big safety talk. So as soon as we got out of the car, it's like, okay, there's cliffs, there's venomous snakes, you know, it's a dangerous environment, all got to stick together, everyone stay within, you know, so you can hear the other people walking around as we're walking along these outcrops, flicking rocks, looking for these snakes. And so I got through the safety. It's like, all right, let's get out, let's get into it. Trying to make sure that I'm, you know, staying within visual distance of everyone else. But realised that basically that talk was to keep everyone all together, bunched up, so that Rick could skip ahead to all of the good rocks and catch all of the snakes. So I'm sure there is an element of safety in there. It was very apparent after the fourth, I think 4-0, was called out that the primary purpose was to make sure that Rick got to all the good rocks first. I've spent a lot of time, about, I think, 6 wet seasons in the top end between honours and working as a research assistant and doing my PhD based up there. This is what someone looks like when they first get up there. You can see a nice mop of hair, and it was, looking at Rick now, you realise that he looks quite different, but he still loves getting out there and running along the dam wall, catching snakes. But he revealed one of the first superpowers that he realised that he had to me about the dam wall. So, like Dwight on The Office being able to control his own cholesterol levels, Rick's capable of controlling his own testosterone levels. And he's told me that what he's done is he's actually focused so hard to inflate them to start growing hair in his ears and nose to prevent bugs getting in there as he's walking up and down the damn wall. The unfortunate side effect of that is male pattern baldness, which is nicely masked there by the hat. But yeah, it's all about the snake. So Rick sacrificed his hair. And in the top end, as well as the snakes, it's also about a few other shenanigans. So Rick has an inordinate ability to turn up just at the right time during the mango season, that they're all ripe and ready to be turned into daiquiris. And he doesn't mind the odd fish, so he turns up again usually in the runoff of the wet season when the fish are around. Another small anecdote that I noticed from his book was he was actually in a boat with his supervisor, Hal Heatwold, and makes reference to a crocodile and learning about the character of his supervisor, etc. Got a ironically similar story. So whenever Rick would come up the top end, we'd organise to get a little tinny, barbecue chicken, couple of bread rolls, head out and catch some fish. Anyway, we've headed out up the Mary River one day, gone up a little creek, sitting in this big water hole, fishing for barra. Weren't having much luck, but there was this humongous, dirty, great big bloody black crocodile hanging around. That's potentially why we're catching no fish, but hanging out there was nice, fishing for a while. We didn't realise that the tide had dropped. So the boat had become stuck on the sandbank. It was still in the water, but the boat was stuck and we weren't getting out, even with the motor. So Rick looks at me and he's like, looks like we'll just have to push it out. It's like, yep. So, yes, I learned about academic hierarchy and the character of my supervisor. Needless to say, my shorts were wet and possibly dirty. Rick's other superpower, I suppose, is writing, and you can see that book has inspired a lot of people, and certainly myself is one of them. It's just unlike anything that's out there. Like, you could get your hands on a Worrell or a Cogger or field guides, which, we all had one or two of those under the pillow when we were growing up. But that book was really unique in that it spoke to you about the snakes. It didn't just tell you how long they were or where they lived and that sort of thing. Rick's other superpower, being a prolific writer, is the fact that not many of you would know this, but he types with 2 fingers, which, considering the volume of output, is bloody ridiculous. Every now and then he'll remind himself he's a primate and hit the space button. But otherwise, it's just all this, which is pretty amazing. So he does have these books, which are great. The last one was great. This one's I've skimmed it and it's looking really good. Cheeky entomologist at Sydney University may have manipulated the photo of the book in the second one to make it a bit similar, but there have been questions about Rick's ability to identify snakes in the past, and I believe with the onset of the second volume upcoming, it's hopefully got stories of international snakes. There might be a chapter on the identification of small brown snakes in the swamps of the southern US, as well as potentially the sea snake chapter in New Caledonia with lots of sea snakes, topless French tourists. Why can't we have both? Rick's students and collaborators all hold him in such high esteem that we've now got a traditional farewell for Rick. This is as he was leaving the study site in Hawaii when we went over there. So I've had some amazing opportunities thanks to Rick. A lot to do with snakes, and it's definitely, you can't have anything but respect for someone who, for their entire life, has had so much passion for snakes, and like we all do here. I can guarantee that Rick is not just a scientist, although he's a brilliant one. He's a brilliant mentor, brilliant writer, but having spent time out in the field, you can really see that Rick is genuinely passionate about snakes, and it's just been an absolute privilege to spend some time out in the field with someone like that, and wish him all the best with the new book. So, thanks Rick.